Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of The Real Realtor of Houston, where I'm Kendall Peacock Butler, and you can just call me Peacock. And on this week's episode, I'm so excited to bring to you the brainchild behind contract to close, real estate, admins, transaction coordination services, the whole shebang, Miss Arpine Breaux.
Hi, how are you?
I did it right?
Yes,
I said
you did.
it right?
You did.
Arpine Breaux. She is going to be giving us just a look inside of her world and what that looks like, how she even came up with the company. So if you want to see more, and if you're thinking about maybe jumping into real estate, but maybe real estate isn't exact, or the actual sales portion isn't what you want to do, I think that this episode would be great because it is another way that you can make money in this world. So Arpine, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me. It's definitely an honor to be here.
It is an honor that I know you're a busy lady. Like, I am just, when I typed up the email, I was like, please don't think I'm crazy or anything. So I took a minute. I was like, oh God, she's gonna think I'm a nut. But then when you responded back and you were like, yeah, sure, just let me know. I was so happy because transaction coordination is literally, we need it. If you are a realtor and you do not have a transaction coordinator, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Get them to help you learn how to do these contracts, but how did you come up with this?
So I've actually been in real estate. This is my 19th year. And so originally, prior to that, I was in banking. So I've always worked in operations and back office and things of that nature. So I winded up coming into real estate in Louisiana, which is where I'm originally from, left the banking corporate world and went into real estate. And so it winded up being where it kind of found me. And since I've started, I haven't looked back. So real estate is really cool in the sense that it's always changing and evolving. Yeah, obviously the market changes and the way business goes up and down, and where, we're working a buyer's market, a seller's market, or is it a short sale market or foreclosure market? There's all kinds of things that's always happening. And then there's different styles of real estate. You have commercial, you have residential, you have investment. Airbnb is really popular right now and things of that nature. So it's always evolving and changing. So it's never boring, which is one of the cool things. So banking was kind of boring, just saying. But anyway, I winded up getting into it. So originally I worked for an admin for a real estate agent at the time. And then I was approached very quickly to come work at Keller Williams broker office. And so I was actually the CFO with my background with banking. So they had me come in and run the CFO, the accounting department for the office. So I did that for about a year and a half. And then my husband got the request to transfer in oil and gas is what he worked. And so we moved over to Texas. And so we came to Texas here in Katy. Love it. We moved here in 2008 and we have never looked back. So Texas, Katy is now home, and we love it here. And so I worked for other agents as well. So I wound up running a few teams, vice president of operations. We had some mega teams is what we call them. We were doing several hundred transactions on the team, and I worked with several agents on that team. And then it came to the point where our family was going to grow. And so we were having our second child. So we were very blessed with our second daughter, and took a little time off, and I kind of worked from home just for the agent that I was already working for at that time. And then I decided, to stay home for 2 years with her. And so I was able to do that with my second child. So it was definitely a blessing. I didn't have my mom here with me because with the first one, my mom took care of the first one.
Mm-hmm. You got some practice. You got some tips.
Yeah. So for the second one, we decided for me to be a little bit more hands-on, and I did work a little bit part-time on the side, but primarily it was for me to be a stay-at-home mom. So I did that for 2 years, and then she was ready for preschool. I'm a firm believer that the sooner they get into preschool and have socializing, it helps them with growth. And so we did that, and I said, okay, I'm ready to get back into the real estate world. So then I went ahead and joined that large team, worked with her for 2 years. Loved working the team. Loved, setting up the whole operations and getting things running like a good oil machine. And then life happened again, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So I am a breast cancer survivor going on 9 years.
The pink.
Yes. I didn't even realize I was wearing the pink today, but I am a breast cancer survivor. And so ladies, please get your checkup.
Yes.
It saved my life. So I was 40 years old when I was diagnosed, and I was the first in my family to ever have breast cancer. And the type I wound up having was very aggressive. And so if it was not caught early, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Wow.
So during that year and a half of treatment and going through that process, my team was really good to me. And I worked as much as I possibly could during that time. And then by the time I was cancer-free and ready to get back to it, the team dynamics had changed. And so I wound up being laid off. So things happen for a reason. I'm a firm believer now. At the time, I was very devastated, didn't see it coming. But real estate is always changing, like I said. And so my time, or that chapter in my life, was ready to go to the next one. And so at that time, I was like, well, do I want to go work for other teams? Because that's all I've ever done at that point. However, I was a transaction coordinator running the operations department, which I really love that aspect. I love the whole setup, the whole training and teaching and hiring and setting up systems and making the agents look like rock stars. I'm more of the behind the scenes girl. I have dabbled in selling on the real estate side, but I've learned that my expertise and my comfort zone is more behind office.
That's so important to know what your niche, however you want to say it, because you'll be frustrated and you'll be burnt out and you'll be like, why am I not having fun?
So I mean, looking at houses is fun, but after I look at so many, I'm just ready, right? So being the sales agent side, I've done it. Like I said, I've dabbled in it, done a few transactions here and there, but I didn't gravitate towards it. And so being a little bit older and mature, you realize that as you're getting older in life and your career path, you're like, okay, what do I really want to do? What am I really good at?
What do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah. So my husband really encouraged me, instead of working for another team and growing their business and setting up their systems, that I should go independent. And so here I am now going on my 9th year, and Contract to Close Services was born. And so originally it was just myself and all of the networking and the connections I had with being in the industry as long as I'd been. I just started saying, okay, I can help multiple agents, not just one, and multiple brokers with what I'm good at, which is their operations and their paperwork. And so my first year, I had 60 transactions that I processed independently with working with a handful of agents. And then my second year, that doubled. And so before I knew it, it was definitely more than a full-time job. But I loved it. It was the thing. I wanted more. I had a hard time telling an agent no, that my plate is full or I can't take on any more clients. And so it got to the point where my husband's like, hey, you need to get some help. And what are we doing here? Is this gonna, first it was just to do a few files to pay the bills, and make some money. But then it turned into, well, maybe I'll have something here.
Yeah.
And so when I first started the company, there wasn't a lot of people didn't even know what a transaction coordinator was.
Really?
It was fairly new.
Okay.
There wasn't many. A lot of the TCs, which is what we refer to them as short as transaction coordinators, TCs, they actually worked for agents as an employee. And so it wasn't to where they had independent companies, at least not in this area.
Right.
So I think maybe like New York or California, it's a little bit more known, but they're referred to as assistants typically. So there is a big difference between an assistant and a TC, and I'll kind of touch on that in a bit. But overall, I decided, you know what, here I am. Do I really want to turn this into a business? And so about my second year in, I was like, okay, so I hired my first assistant, my first listing coordinator, which was the part that I didn't care to do. Once again, looking at pictures and doing descriptions, that was really my strength. I could do it, by all means. It was something I can teach and do myself. However, it was one of those things that as you work in a career or have a job, there's certain things you like or dislike, but it still needs to get done. And so I went ahead and hired my first hire. From there, we hired the second one and the third one, and here we are today. We're up to 10.
Wow.
And so we have 10 TCs that work for me full-time exclusively. My team is what makes me. Last year, when I originally started, was 60 transactions my first year. Last year, we closed almost 2,200 transactions.
Are you serious?
With my team, yeah. So
2,200?
2,200, yes. Even in the shifting market we had. And so, what I've learned as a business owner, the transaction's the easy part for me, but growing the business, setting up the operations, hiring the talent, making sure that we're servicing the agents at the level that's needed. And so we've kind of structured some of our basic packages so that we can help the agent. And then the cool thing is you don't pay us a salary. And so we're a flat fee, as you know, right?
And so are worth it.
So one of the cool things about that is you don't have to make payroll. when you don't have a contract. So real estate is one of those things that it can be up and down. You may have a really great month. You have 4 or 5 transactions that you're going to be closing, which is a blessing, and you've worked really hard. But then what happens is when you get those contracts, you're not able to keep your momentum. And we do this thing called lead generation so that you're always working on the next contract. So the one you get today and you get executed, it's already a done deal. You got to start working on the next one. And so that you don't have that roller coaster, is what we say in real estate. So it goes up and it goes down.
And it's not a fun roller coaster.
Definitely is not. As agents, we work on commission 100%, as salespeople. And so the other part to that was if I was able to give a service to provide to agents for where they can hire us at a set fee, then they can hire us when they need us and not necessarily be on payroll. And so I think that's one of the benefits that those 2,200 transactions that we did and the agents that we partner with, we're about between 80 to 100 agents, give or take, that we're working with in the area. And we service all of Texas. So we have some clients in El Paso, we have some in Austin, we have some in San Antonio, Katy, Houston. So we're kind of all over in Texas, South Texas anyway. It just worked. And so a lot of agents are like, you know what, I can afford this because I only have to pay for the service when I need it. Not only that, but everyone on my team, my least senior, as far as being in the industry, is going on 6 years. My most senior is 37 years in the business. And so combined, we have well over 100 years of experience with the team. And so if I don't know the answer, there's usually someone else on my team who does. And if they don't, then we have a lot of connections and resources that we can reach out to. And so that's a little bit of how we kind of got started.
Jeez, I freaking 2,200 deals in a year? Okay, and you said y'all are now at 11?
We just hired an 11th person, and she's my second bilingual Spanish-speaking TC.
You just hired your 11th person. So 10 people last year, that's 2022.
Yes.
10 people did 2,200 transactions.
Well, technically 9 because I don't do transactions myself anymore.
Of course not.
So
that's why I have a team.
I'm running the business, getting the business. I'm also a certified coach, and I'm also a certified CE instructor, all within real estate. So that was one of the things and I miss doing transactions. Don't get me wrong. It still is my comfort zone. But in order to run the business and be there for the team and be there with agents like this, so, being able to mentor and be able to coach and actually go out and do classes, real estate classes, giving back to the community for the real estate. And I've grown to it. I love teaching. I winded up my 3rd year, I winded up hiring a business coach. So when I got 2 years in, it just grew. All of a sudden, I had 3 people working for me, and I didn't know what I was doing. I never ran a business before, but I knew how to do real estate. Yeah. I knew how to do transactions, and I had a good reputation, and a lot of people would refer me business. And I just made sure that our team took care of those agents at a high level. Majority of my business is referral business. And so I hired a business coach because it was getting to that point where, okay, now what? Right? And so you got to start paying Uncle Sam a little bit more. You got to have your, it's like, got to do the P&L. I got to do the budget, got to do next hire. What is, the chart, or who's going to do what and whose responsibility. So I was like, you know what, I need to get serious because I actually have something here. And so before I knew it, we did, hired the next person, hired my coach. And I wound up being coached, weekly. It was an investment in myself as well as my business, and I haven't looked back. And so coaching is what took my business from 3 people to 11. And so I'm a firm believer that hire a business coach. It's no different than you have a sports coach or you have a health coach or a personal trainer. Having that accountability is what is needed for growth. And it's painful.
It really is. I'm going through that right now where I'm having the hardest time. And honestly, this show is helping me. This show actually started as a way for me to have a way of being accountable to myself. Because if I'm saying I'm going to put a show up and I'm still working
We're always work in progress, always.
This show started with supposed to come out on Fridays, and now it's like on Sundays, but sometimes it'll come out on Monday. But it was a way to help me to be more accountable to the things that I said I wanted to do. So you speaking on that, because it is a great investment in getting a business coach or getting any kind of a coach. So well, I mean, you had the money coming in, but like financially, like, were you uncomfortable having to pay that amount?
Well, my goal once I got my coach was to get out of files myself. So obviously with hiring people, I'm having to pay,
Yeah.
those TCs working for me. So even though we were making more transactions, technically more money, I was paying just as much out because I was having to pay people to help grow the business at this point. Yeah. So then you have still marketing, you still have expenses, all those things that are happening. And so it got to the point where in order for me to stop doing files myself, I had to replace that business. And it's all a numbers game of what's gonna work and what's not gonna work. And so having that coach help me with my roadmap and then holding me accountable to my goals so that I can get there. So I had a 5-year plan. And so my 5th year in the business, I needed to be out of files. And so it took me about 2 years transition to do that. So once I hired my 7th TC, I was able to go part-time in transactions myself. And in my 8th year, I completely got out of doing files. So my coach helped me with that, right? It was having the accountability and hiring the right coach is also important.
It is, yeah.
It's an investment. And what I mean by that, it's not $200-$300. No. It's a big investment to hire a good, talented, thousands of dollars. However, my coach was able to triple my business, right? So the money I invested in my coach and in my business, I got 3 times back.
3 times back.
Yeah.
And it's scary and it's hard, but it's like you're making a bet on yourself. Mm-hmm. You are Vegas, and you are the table.
Absolutely. And if I don't make it, I only have myself to look at. Mm-hmm. And the coach is there to just remind you, hold your hand, be your cheerleader, but also be your mommy or your daddy, if you want to call it like that, or that parent type of role of, hey, let's get in line, let's focus, let's pay attention. And then just tracking everything, noticing what you need to do, and pushing you to the next level, right? Did I ever think when I first started I would have 2,200 transactions that we processed in a year? No. Did I ever think we would have 11 TCs working for me? I have 11 talented, licensed real estate agents that are working for me that have said, I want to partner with you and be in business with you. There's many nights at night when you put your head on the pillow, I'm responsible for 11 different families.
That's a lot of weight.
Yeah, hence I need to do my job.
Yeah.
And my job is to continue to be available for agents, help them with training, help them with coaching, help them with their business, be a partner with them is what it comes down to, right? And a lot of times it's relationship based. So we don't want to just do your paperwork. We want to be part of your team, right? We don't want just one transaction. We want all your transactions.
Right.
I don't lock any agents in to work with us. There's no contract. I don't believe in that because I don't like it when people do it to me. Like, we have your utility and you're locked in for 2 years or, I don't like that type of business. And so I didn't want to do it that way. And so it's all where the agents decide. So if you have 4 listings you need help with and you want to send us all 4 to do them, great. If you only want to send 2 because you can handle 2 yourself, that's great too. If you don't want to send us any listings and you just want to send us the closings, we can do that part as well. And so you get to pick and choose and have control of your business. However, we just want to be that asset and make your team, and that's the way I look at it, is we are a team to get more business together.
That is beautiful. And I would be remiss if I didn't say on her, because you'll get a close-up of it, but she has a bunch of beautiful women that she has been able to give them income and, like you said, 11 different families. So definitely not, we nobody's personal, but what are some ways that you've been able to help them with gaining their independence? And really being able to show them, because sometimes it's people come from a dark place, and so something as simple as,
So some of the ladies on my team, I'm not going to give any names because they would hate me for that. I have some that are single women. One of my pride and joys is that she was able to buy her first home independently after she got divorced.
Are you serious?
Yeah. So within a year after her divorce, she's like, you know what? I think I'm ready to buy a house. And so she was able to apply and get her mortgage, even though she was a real estate agent and all that. She qualified with working for me at that point for 4 years. Wow. And she was able to buy her own home independently.
Oh my gosh.
And so, I kind of helped someone's life goals and got there with that, with my small little company.
Not your small little company. Better invest in it now. You got stocks. You went public yet?
No. And then we have some other ones that are semi-retired. And so we've had someone on the team. She was, 35 years in the real estate business. She ran a whole office. And she decided to retire. So she did that. And then she kind of got a little bored. She didn't quite have her grandbabies yet. She has them now. So I think they're feeling a little bit more of
She's
her
not
time.
bored anymore.
But she just wanted part-time work in the beginning. And so she came to me and said, hey, can we partner up? I'd like to do some work just to kind of keep me busy. And I was like, absolutely. I've known her for many, many years. And she was actually one of my mentors. And so she works originally she was part-time. She's worked up a little bit more now. But so I was able to do that. So someone who just wanted to still be in the business, but not necessarily run their own company or office per se. And we have everyone in between. We have a lot of married young couples that have their children and they're starting their family. And then we have some more that, their children have moved on and off. So we have a variety of ladies that work for me. Most of them have been, my most senior has been with me going on 7 years.
Wow.
And so I hire very selectively. They go through a rhythm, this and that, but I don't like to have turnover. I don't think any company does. Yep. But if you invest in your people and you help them with their personal growth, either they're going to move to their next chapter in their life, and hopefully I can help them with that, and help them grow. Or if they want to continue to stay with us and they're happy, then the longer that is, the better for both.
Would y'all expand outside of Texas? Do you see that?
Well, we have well over 38,000 real estate agents here in the state of Texas.
Why would we need to go anywhere?
I don't need to go. If I do, my next state would probably be Louisiana. Mm. Obviously, I have family that's still there. Mm-hmm. And when I started in real estate, it was Louisiana real estate. Mm-hmm. So I am familiar with it. But honestly, my main focus now, we just launched in March, is the commercial division. So we've been doing residential for many, many years. And so commercial is more of where I want to focus on personally. So I'll be getting some certifications for commercial as well. I hired a TC who had 7 years of commercial because it wasn't my area of expertise. And so I've known her for several years. So I brought her in. And so she's been teaching me. But the last quarter of this year, I'll be taking some classes myself. And eventually be able to start doing some CE classes for commercial as well. So I have several that I do for residential, which I enjoy and love and know like the back of my hand. So it's just challenging myself for growth as well, of trying different avenues of real estate.
That is so neat. You're a professional student, but not professional, like you just spend a lifetime in school, but like you always are. You're always putting yourself in situations to continue to keep your skills sharp and keep growing. I think that's why people end up staying with something, is because it's keeping them sharp. It's keeping them on their toes. Like you were saying, the young lady who had 37 years, she was just kind of bored, and but it keeps her sharp. It keeps you, something to do. It gives you a reason, a purpose. So that is absolutely amazing that you've been able to empower so many women and give them hope, knowing that they have a way.
Absolutely. And whatever their next chapter is, when they get to that point, I want to elevate them and I want to help them with their growth. Yeah. Other people in my past have done that for me. I didn't get where I am by myself. Obviously, someone had to teach me real estate. Someone had to teach me how to run a business. Someone had to teach me how to be a CE instructor. And, all those people along my way in my, going on 19 years now, a lot of people have helped me on my path and my journey. And that's the cool thing, is there's no end, and you can always want more and do more. And one of the things I joke with my husband is I'm never satisfied. I always want more. There's nothing wrong with wanting more, and there's nothing wrong with status quo either. It's just a matter of what do you want for your life. I want to leave a legacy. Obviously, as a cancer survivor, there were some dark times in our life. And the reason I started my company is I wanted control. I wanted control of my future and my life. As far as I never thought in a million years I wouldn't be able to work. I was 40 years old, had no problems, had two children. One of them was 2 years old at the time.
Jesus.
I never expected I couldn't work. I don't think anyone ever plans that you can't work.
You might not want to, but that you can't.
That you physically cannot work. Yeah. No one ever banks on that. And it's not even on your radar, right? I mean, when you're dealing with your parents or seniors, it's like, oh, that's old people's problem, right? Or when you get older in your life, you can't work physically. So it changed the way my husband and I looked at things in our life. And he really was the one who pushed me to start Contract to Close services. And I think we've helped lots of agents in our industry become better agents. We've definitely helped brokers as far as keeping them out of the courts and getting contracts. There is a lot of legal side to what we do as well.
Oh, yeah.
And we want to just be a resource. So we want to be a team member, and we want to be a resource and be an ally with agents in our area. So.
Okay. So transaction coordination services. Mm-hmm. What all does that entail? What all do y'all do?
So we kind of do everything when it comes to paperwork, in the sense of we can help agents with when they go to get their contracts. If they need someone to write up their contracts, we can do that as well. We are a licensed real estate agent, so we're allowed to use all the forms, just like the agents we partner with. It's not required in the state of Texas to be licensed. However, it's a requirement for my company. Mm-hmm. I think in order for us to partner with agents at a high level, it's required, in my opinion.
No, it is. Mm-hmm.
Not only that, it just there's no gray lines. We know what we can and can't do because there is a strict code of what TREC allows us to do and our regulations that we have to follow. So we can help any agent write any of their documents for a set fee, but we can also help with them doing their listings. And so when agents go on appointments and they get their sellers to agree to list their homes with them, there's always a process that has to get done behind the scenes before that home is shown on the market. And so that is all the way from broker paperwork to contract paperwork to scheduling the photographer, scheduling videographer, it may be also, taking all the pictures, editing all the pictures, doing descriptions on those pictures, putting everything into the MLS to advertise the property, setting up all of the automation drips and whatnot, and emails and feedback. And so we call it showing service setup, a market insight setup, all those things that happen to support that listing for that seller. And so we basically make the agents look like rock stars.
And they do. They've done it for me quite a few times.
So we do all the public descriptions. We do all the public remarks on the pictures. And, my listing coordinators, that is all they do. That is their full-time job. That is their primary focus. And that's where they're highly talented in. And so even if those houses that are possibly not as the best condition, because sometimes there's all types of real estate we work with, right? There's some that are needing to be a little TLC, a little fixer-uppers, and so on and so forth. When they read it, you think it's the Taj Mahal. So
listen, one of the things in the Navy, we have evaluations, and every year you have your evaluation. You have like your midterm, and then whatever. So supervisors are usually the ones who have to write them for the junior personnel. And they would say things like, you had to shine a turd, basically. It sucks to say it. But you had to make this turd shine because you didn't have the best people to write up about all the time. But y'all are able to just make it have just a stellar, glowing review of this property that you just cannot wait to get into.
Absolutely. And then also you have to know the regulations and the rules. So that's the other part to it is, anyone can write a description about a picture, but you have to make sure you can follow the rules and the regulations that are also that we have to abide by as licensed agents. So that's the other part. And then we take care of the broker compliance. So we're also there to make sure that the brokers are protected. So us being a second pair of eyes to say, hey, this is missing or this is needed or, this is written incorrectly. You can't practice real estate in that fashion. So we're another pair of eyes that can come in and help that agent. We work with all agents. We work with agents who just got out of real estate school and just got their license and they've never written a contract ever. To people who are running, we have one of our largest teams and they have like 9 agents on their team. And, you know, they've been in the business for 20, 30 years. And so we are also all in between that. So we have brand new agents we work with and also the seasoned large teams that we work with as well. And so that's the listing side, but we also do contract to close. That is our primary focus. The biggest chunk of our business is the sales contract. And so once an agent is negotiating an offer, we help them type up the offer if they need that service. And then once it's executed, we would come on as the team member to get that home to close. And so we are in charge with making sure we abide by the contract terms, and timelines. And so we're there to be that second pair of eyes or that reminder, hey, it's time for us to order the survey. It's time for us to make sure we get checks delivered it's time to get inspections set up. It's time to, schedule home warranty to be ordered, get new survey, all those things that happen in the transaction. And the cool thing about our service too is we also talk to the buyers and sellers. And so some transaction coordinators only deal with the agent and they don't actually communicate with the actual buyer and sellers. However, we do. And so upon getting that contract that you would send over to us, the first thing we do is we email the copy of all the paperwork, give us a short introduction of who we are and what we do for the team. And then we're going to give them a personal phone call, right? We don't assume they're going to see the email or they understand the email. But if you've ever bought a house, there's a lot that goes into it. And there's a lot of moving parts. And so you rely on your real estate agent or the team that you're hiring
to make it make sense.
To make it sense and hold you and guide you every step of the way with making sure that you're following those terms and those deadlines. Because missing a deadline in a contract
can cost you so much.
Can cost huge loss for your client, right? And so when you're working multiple contracts and there's only so many hours in the day, that's where we come in, right? So we've got your back. So we're like, hey, guess what? Today is end of option period. You're going to get that reminder 48 hours before, 24 hours before. And we do it electronically as well as, text messages, emails, and then it's on your calendar, right? So we automate a lot of that as well. And, we just make sure that you understand as the agent, hey, this is where we are on the transaction. This is what's needed in the transaction. And then just making sure we're moving everything along. And then we're holding that buyer's hand or that seller's hand with their questions. Because sometimes you're running a business as well as a real estate agent. For example, you're doing a video here today. If one of your clients is needing assistance, you're not able to stop and take a phone call at the moment, right? However, by hiring a transaction coordinator, they're available during business hours to take that phone call. And so they have our cell phone numbers and that buyer or seller can call us. We're licensed real estate agents just like yourself, so we can answer any question. If it's an area where only you as the agent can help them, then we would take that message and relay that information back so that it will help save you time. So if you have to get information and do research for whatever their needs are, you'll have time to do that when you call your client and be ready for that phone call.
Jessica, who is my transaction coordinator, has been absolutely a lifesaver, especially with me having a baby. Because when I started working with her, he was like 6 months old. And he's
itty bitty.
He's little teeny tiny little baby. And now he's 15. Actually, was he? He was little, but he's 15 months old now. I don't remember if it was this year or last year that I got it with Jessica, but she has absolutely been a godsend for me because it's like we were talking about the accountability. There's a lot of days where like mentally, emotionally, like I can't. And I'm doing the best I can to just get him to daycare. And so when it comes to being, full transparency, just being honest, there's a lot of days that I don't feel like peopling, and that includes the business too. But I don't ever want to not be able to give a good service. So having Jessica there to be able to and I let them know from the beginning, any real estate questions, talk to Jessica. That's what she's there for. Now, if you have personal stuff, whatever, I'm always going to be here. But it is such an amazing feeling to know that I can have my days where mentally and it might be a few days that mentally I can't, but I know that my business doesn't have to suffer because I have that reinforcement there. So I cannot put into words enough how valuable y'all are. And it's not even a big fee that you charge for your services. I don't feel it is.
Nope, it's not. It's just a few $100s per transaction, depending on what package you pick. And like I said, there's no contract locking you in, so it's only per contract. So for us to write up an offer, I mean, prices start at $60, and they go as high as $400. So that is our highest package at the moment. Commercial's a little bit higher because there's more involved, and those are a little bit more custom. But yeah, it's very affordable in that regards, and everything is a tax write-off. So that's the other thing. You know, at the end of the year, you send us a 1099, you get a nice little tax write-off that you get to put against your taxes when you file, and it kind of makes it a win-win. So, you know, the biggest key is giving leverage. There's only 24 hours in a day. Everyone has the same amount, right? What you do with those 24 hours is what counts. Yep. And as a single agent, I'm sure you can refer to this back when your first year of real estate, you're constantly going. And a lot of agents, after you do your showings or you go to your appointments, you still have to come back and do the paperwork. You still have to get on the computer. You just have to do the research. You have to go look at all the numbers and go look at the market stats. And that's a lot of behind the scenes work that most people don't realize what it takes to be a real estate agent. Yep. Many nights, I'm sure you can attest to this, you're working past midnight.
Oh my God. I can't even start working until 10 o'clock at night because now my kids are in the bed and everybody else is quiet, you know, and I can actually be able to do all of those things that she just said. So I'm going to bed at 1 and 2 o'clock. Joe, seriously, what time do you get email messages from me? It's like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning because that's when I'm actually able to do things. And I apologize. I'm like, I am so sorry. I hope I interrupted nothing. But
well, we hope that you can partner with us so we can alleviate that. You know, at the end of the day, it's for you to get some time back in your day. And what you choose to do with that time is up to you. Either A, is for you to go get more business, B, have more family time or personal time, or a mix of both. And so we have different agents that we partner with on different levels. And so it comes down to 24 hours a day and how much you can use those hours for what you want to focus on.
Yeah, that is amazing. I had no idea. Like, so she is the owner, and we did an introduction when I wanted to start using the TC services, but I had no idea, like, seriously, the background and what you have endured to get to where you are. So it really is a testament of anything you put your mind to, and your husband is the one who's like, hey, you know, why don't you? So if it is the smallest little thing, whatever energy you put into it, it has no choice but to grow. So when people, and that's why I was so excited about interviewing you, because it seriously was a business that started from nothing.
It's been a lot of hard work.
Yes.
For sure. You know, when people say, oh, you did 2,200 transactions last year, or you have 11 team members, it didn't happen overnight, definitely. Any business you grow, any real estate business you do, you know, every year you're looking to do better than the prior year. You've learned more, you've grown more. And so it's constantly just adding another level and then pushing yourself and then putting those systems in place and or partnering up with people to make it where you're moving forward, and learning and growing is the biggest key. So, you know, I've partnered with lots and lots of people over the 19 years. I've learned a lot from my lender partners, with my title company partners, with other real estate agents, with other transaction coordinating companies. You know, I'm constantly pushing myself to continue to learn and grow and be relevant in our community as far as real estate is concerned. So I have agents that'll call me that they don't use our services, but they know from my teaching and for me being in the business, or people will refer, say, hey, you know what, call Arpine, she may have an information, or she can connect you with someone else. So that's another thing, is if I'm not the person who can help you, or perhaps you're needing more of an assistant role where someone works for you specifically, I have a network of people that I can reach out to, and we can help take care of what your needs are. So if I'm not the person or the right fit for what you're looking for, chances are I may know someone else in the industry that can, or I can lead you in that direction. And so I do have a big networking group that over the years I've built, and we take care of each other, right? It's like, hey, I need this or I need that, or, you know, we have a problem on a file that comes up and my agent comes to me and they're, say, fairly new in the business, and perhaps their broker is not responsive or not able to assist them when they need it. I get phone calls at 9, 10 o'clock at night, and sometimes I'm like, oh, and so I'll take it, or they'll do the 911 text, and it's like, I know it's late, but I really need to talk to someone and no one in my office is available. And so I'll help them through that, you know, and It makes me feel good at the end of the day. So if we can save a deal, or we can think outside of the box and put our heads together of how can we negotiate through this, or did you ever have this experience or knowledge, then we can work together as a team and get to the end result, which is you have a buyer and a seller who's buying and selling a home or a piece of property.
Yeah.
To where, they can take care of what their needs are. And, buying houses is the largest investment in anyone's life. And I think there's good agents and bad agents. There's good TCs and bad TCs. I think that's just like even doctors and lawyers, right?
It's not built the same.
Not everyone is built the same. With that being said, having to where I can help an agent become better at their role, and having, being an advocate for them, even if they're not my client, I still try to help everyone. And the intention for that is one day when their business is ready and they need the help, they'll come back.
They'll come back. And you're always paying it forward. And because you pay it forward, it's like, I'm a Christian. I believe in God, but I believe that God has no choice but to give it back to you, because you're showing the universe, I want this. I'm willing to take a class. I'm willing to buy a coach. I'm willing to do whatever I need to do to invest in myself or to invest in whatever so that I can make my dream. Because sometimes you can have the plan, write it, make it plain, but at some point you have to take a step to be able to do that. You mentioned that you do the continuing education classes. So would somebody be able to say, hey, Arpine, can you come and just do a CE class for us? My
Absolutely.
team or me by myself, like I want to come. You just do it.
Yep. Actually, I'm working on my next quarter of the calendar now. So I already have 13 classes scheduled that'll be coming out. Okay. And majority of my focus is real estate related content. Obviously, the contracts, teaching the contract courses. We teach Canva and how to do basic marketing. We do addendums and how to stay out of trouble. Partnered with another appraiser, for example. So that's my newest class. Where we have an appraiser who comes out for 3 hours and tells you everything and anything about appraising properties.
That's what I'm about to start doing, right?
Are you?
Yes.
Look at, well, she actually has her own appraisal company, and we've partnered with her, and awesome. We finally got it approved to start teaching us at CE, and so we're launching that one. So I'm really proud of that one. And if you ever have a topic that you want, what do you guys want to learn? What do you want to know? I mean, we have the basic stuff, and we have the requirements that are needed for renewal for our licenses. I'm in the process. I just registered, and they only offer it once a year to do legal 1 and 2.
Okay.
So I've signed up for that. That'll be in December. And so January, I'll start bringing those aboard to start teaching. And so, one of my goals with my coach is every quarter I have to come up with 3 new classes. And so I want to have a variety of courses so that number one is, I don't want to get bored teaching the same thing.
Yeah.
But I also want to be able to bring in new content of what the market shifts and things are happening. And so like the appraisal class was a really big one because our market has truly shifted currently.
Yeah.
And us as agents, being that people are paying $20,000, $30,000 over asking price, well, those days, were short-lived.
Yeah.
Thank goodness, to some extent.
Unless you were a seller.
Now we're having the opposite, where all of a sudden homes are now sitting on the market a little bit longer. And so it's actually having conversations with homeowners of saying, hey, this is where we are on the market, taking analysis of what's happening, knowing and understanding how appraisals work, so that we can give the best advice to our sellers to get their home sold.
That's why I wanted to become an appraiser, just because I wanted to understand what the market just did. Mm-hmm. How did it do that? We know everything got jacked up because of COVID, but seriously, how did the house cost this much to build and now it costs this much to build in this short amount of time? So being able to bring that, especially for listing agents, like you just said, being able to be the best resource for their clients, and they know that they are getting the best knowledge because they have you as a resource.
Yeah, if it doesn't appraise, it's probably going to be a deal bust. And so we as agents have to know the ins and outs and be able to recommend and then navigate through that process, right? And so, appraiser is just another part of buying and selling. Mm-hmm. And, a lot of appraisers unfortunately get the negative of, oh, the home is worth more and this and that. But it takes many years for them to get their license to be an appraiser, and they have to do an apprenticeship. They're highly educated, and it's a career path for them. Yeah. And so It's not just a random opinion of what they think a home is worth. They actually have to do all of the paperwork and do all of the research to come up with it. And so I've learned more about appraisals with, obviously, because I was interested in it myself and I wanted to learn about it. So I partnered up with her, and one of my lender partners introduced me to her. And so then I said, hey, you know what? This is something that I get lots and lots of calls about from our current clientele. Hey, the home didn't appraise. What can we do to save this deal, right? And so sometimes we have to challenge the appraisals, and you have to go back and look at the data and say, hey, this is not an accurate comp, and why is it or why is it not? And so there is a lot of paperwork and research that goes into it. It's not just put a for sale sign and take a few pictures and throw it on the MLS.
Though people do that.
Some do that, and those are usually your discount brokers. And I mean, there is a place for them too.
There's a place for us all.
There's a place for us all. However, those days have come and gone. That was there for a little blimp of a minute where, a lot of like, oh, I just have to put it on and it'll sell in a day. Yes, that was a very short-lived period. That's not the norm.
No.
There was a little blip that we had. We are back to basics.
Yeah.
And agents need to know how to negotiate, and they need to know how to advocate for their client that they're representing to get to the table to close.
I just did an episode, the Amira community out in Tomball. I just did like a 10-year market analysis just to see like what did home prices do just over the last 10 years. And it's $100,000 more expensive to buy a house in the 77377 zip code. But just looking at the prices from what they were in 2021, I believe, to what they are now, the prices are actually leveling back down to what they were. So it's just like when you see that and you're analyzing the market and looking at what the numbers are doing, and you're going out there, because homes are selling for, I want to say it was $30,000 or $40,000. Like they'll list it at, I think it was $290, and they would end up selling for like $265. So it wasn't $40,000, and my math was, but anyway. But it's still showing that the homes are still coming, they are coming back down, but it's not like you said, this big drastic change of things like leveling back down. It's just getting cooler. It's going back to what it was before. Yeah.
Interest rates play a big part in that, right? And interest rates go up and down for a reason, and it's to kind of balance the economy is what it is. In the same sense, we are very fortunate in the Houston area that home values continue to go up. So even though, yes, you are paying a little bit more, your equity that you're getting is more than what you're paying as far as the increase for the purchase of the home. So you really have to look at the bigger picture. And as agents, we have to explain that to buyers and sellers. That even though you're paying a higher interest rate, we can be creative with mortgage partners, and we have different avenues and whatnot. And I'm not an expert in that area, but I definitely have those people I refer to. And, today is always a good day to buy real estate, because tomorrow the house is going to cost more.
It's going to cost more, and people waiting on the interest rates. You marry the house and you date the rate.
Absolutely. And that's the truth.
And seriously, you negotiate that interest rate down. People refinance all the time, and it's like, you can always get another interest rate.
Correct.
So,
but the property values, we've been very blessed, like I said, have constantly gone up.
Yeah.
Right. And so, if you're going to make $15,000 or $20,000 in equity, and your interest rate is 1 or 2% higher than you want to be, and your payment for your mortgage may be $100 more a month, what's 100 times 12? That's $1,200. I would pay $1,200 all day long to make $15,000.
But everybody does not see that. But there is a place for everybody.
Everyone, yes.
Because those that want to buy real estate, maybe as investment properties, we need those people who want to rent.
Yeah.
And
rentals have gone up too. I mean, rental prices have completely gone up. And so if you want to be that person who wants to pay someone else's mortgage.
And vacations.
Okay. Everyone's in a different place in their life. But home ownership is the American dream.
It is.
At the end of the day. And so we know enough people in the business, and she can definitely help you purchase that dream home if you want that.
Thank you.
And, we can get you to the closing table together as a team.
Yeah, definitely. All right. So, and this is a great segue into closing remarks of if there's any, anybody looking to venture out, starting their own company, whatever, what would you kind of give the measure as I look back? This is what I wish I had have known then.
I have a lot of people who will call me and say, hey, I got my license. I thought I wanted to sell. I don't really like that part. I think the biggest thing is learning as much as you can. So I think education is big. The cool thing about real estate is you don't have to go to years and years and years to get your real estate license. That could be a plus or a minus. But it could be where it's the craft. Once you get out of real estate school, and when I did, I didn't know half of what I know today, right? You know more of the legal stuff, which you're allowed to do, not allowed to do. But as far as practicing real estate, you actually don't do that until you finish and get your license.
They don't teach you anything about how to sell a house. They teach you how to not lose your license.
Correct. It's very legal in the background. With that being said, I personally went and worked for an agent. And so it was a senior agent, and I literally learned on the job, right? I mean, my first job I took was like $11 an hour, right? And I was an admin. And so I started from that level, and I just learned everything because I left the banking world and I had, you know, a manager's position, and I walked away from that. You got to start somewhere is the point. And so you can be a self-learner where you go to classes. There's lots and lots of education that's available. You can do a lot of masterminding with other agents and individuals. That's one thing I do like is other agents are always willing to help answer your questions or teach you. A lot of times too, I'll say just ask to shadow, right? Say, hey, you're going on a listing appointment. I've never gone on one. Could I come with you? And a lot of them will say, yeah, absolutely. They'll help you. You always have to hang your license somewhere with a broker. And usually a broker has more than one agent in that office that they're working with. If they don't, and your own broker, that's different. But there's always someone that if you ask will help you along the way. And then get into class, learn, take classes. Sometimes I did volunteer work, right? It's like, I don't know how to do that. Will you teach me? And then I'll do it for nothing. You know, I was teaching quite a few classes before I was charging for CE fee, but it was something I worked towards, right? So I said, I want to be an expert in this so that I can actually make a career out of it. And so working with other agents, taking classes, you know, being in the business, I think is where it starts, for real estate anyway. Well, it's probably like that for anything, right?
Yeah, but I mean, definitely like with the learning aspect, because I started with KW. Well, actually I started with another broker that was local to Virginia, but I joined KW like a year after, or really 9 months, and that was one of the biggest aspects that I loved about Keller Williams was their training. So I know there's so many companies that come out, but I will always, without a shadow of a doubt, always recommend Keller Williams for their training, just because that's where I felt like I was fed at a lot. And people have their different perspectives. I don't know if I'm even supposed to say a name of a company or not, but I had a great experience.
They've been around for a while, and you know they're one of the larger brokers. But you know, today there's education everywhere. You don't even have to leave your house.
This is true.
You can just go straight to your computer and pull up and take classes and whatnot. The biggest thing is you have to push yourself, and you want to become an expert in what you choose to do. And how you do that is actually getting uncomfortable.
Things like we see the person like, on the poster, but it's like, you know, your biggest breakthrough basically is on the other side of your fears.
Absolutely.
Fear is the biggest paralyzer.
Public speaking was one of my personal fears. It's one of those things that since I was very young, I've had trouble with it. And so I pushed myself to teach. And so in order for me to get over that, I said, all right, I can teach, right? And then I said, okay, at first it was very uncomfortable. But as I did it once, twice, 3 times, and now I've taught hundreds of classes, it's easy peasy. I mean, there is even certain topics I don't even really need to prepare.
No, you just show up.
I just, yeah.
And then you drop the mic and walk off.
But that's 19 years of getting there, right? My very first class I ever taught on the contract, I mean, I would have like 6 pages of my notes and, you know, to follow and prepare and study it and just know it. And then worrying about, oh, well, what if someone asks this question and I don't know the answer? Right? And that's okay, because that's going to happen. There's going to be times where someone asks you a question, a buyer, a seller, an agent, or whoever in the transaction, and you know, I'm not really sure about that, but let me go ahead and find out, right? And so that's another thing is, you know, don't give wrong information. There's nothing worse than giving bad information.
People respect you more when you can admit that you don't know it. And
we don't know everything.
Nobody does.
But usually you can go find what you need to find. And having those resources and connections to do so.
Okay. If someone were looking to get into transaction coordinating with contract to close or with your company, because you said you're very selective. So
I
is
am.
it that do they just call? Would they get in contact with me and I put it, because I did send like 2 people and you were like, you were not really looking right now.
Right now, I am not looking at the moment, but it also just depends on where the business goes, right? So I always like to fill my bench. And so I will keep some resumes on hand. In order for them to even apply with me, they have to be at least 1 year in the business as a transaction coordinator already. And they must have their license active. And so those are the 2 requirements in order to partner with me. And then at the moment, it just depends. So if I find talent, like I did my last one that I just hired, I wasn't intending on bringing anyone, but she kind of fell in my lap. And I was like, I want her. And so then I went and got the business so I can hire her. And so it just depends.
So she went and got the business so she could hire
the business so I can hire her. When talent shows up,
you got to make
you got to show up too.
Listen, and you talking about you want to bring them on, it's like, what are you telling them?
Yeah, I gave myself 3 months to where I had to go get enough business to be able to hire her, and I did it. It was a big goal, and I told my coach, I want to hire this girl, and she's like, okay, what do we need to do? And I mapped it out with her, and she held me accountable. I signed up 17 new agents in 1 month.
Are you serious? Jesus.
My goal currently is 5 a month, and
you did 17?
because I wanted her.
Oh my gosh, but okay, because I notice this with me all the time. Whatever I say I want, just me talking and saying, okay, like when I was moving out here, I was like, God, I need like 15,000 to make it happen. And he ended up giving me like 26. So it's way more than what you even asked for. And that is, when you said that number, is that the number that you and your coach said, okay, look, we're gonna do 5 a month. I know I need to get this, but if we can do 5, and then you end up getting 17? Girl, you a hustler, honey.
Yeah, well, I mean, it comes down to knowing what you want.
Yeah.
And then mapping it out, and then doing the work.
Doing the work.
And then having that person hold me accountable.
I love it. I appreciate your time today. I know
this was fun.
I'm so happy that you said that, because it is fun. I love being able to have a conversation around different topics like this, because I love being able to show people options, you know.
Yeah, real estate has tons of options.
Too many.
Yeah, but it's cool in that sense. So if I master one area, then I can move on to a different area. And so that's another cool thing about real estate. And I'm sure, like you're going to say, you're going to go into the appraisal side. It's still real estate, right? So everything you've done thus far, or you want to bring in, can just build on top of that next level.
And you just become even more of a resource.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
If people want to get in contact with you for transaction coordination services, how would they be able to find you?
Well, my phone number is the best. It's 713-859-9190. Or you can go to my website, which is llc.net, and all the information is on the website for you.
There you go.
All right. Hopefully we'll hear from you. If you need any help with the transaction coordinators, we got one for you.
Oh, don't worry about it, honey. They're coming. We've already let it out, so just wait for that phone to ring. And you'll be like, where did you hear about me from? And they can be like, we saw you on The Real Realtor of Houston. And you're like, oh, all right. Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I am so excited that I'm able to bring content like this. If there's any ideas that y'all have for any guests that you would like for me to bring on the show, any topics for me to discuss, it isn't just home walkthroughs and stuff like that. It is a lot of just knowledge that you're able to gain. So if you have anything that you would like to see on the show, please feel free to message me directly. You can put a comment. You can find me on Facebook, Kendall Butler, the Realtor. You can find me on Instagram at The Real Realtor of Houston. My phone number, 864-915-3956. So I can't wait to see you guys next week.